Bon après-midi, mesdames et messieurs. Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sung-Hoon Kim. I'm here to welcome you to ICAO SkyTalks 40th Assembly version. We are coming to you live, and over the next 2 weeks, we have 68 presentations for you. Now, if you've missed any presentations, then there are no problems. We ask you to go to YouTube and check out our ICAO channel, and you can look for more information there. After our presentations, should you have any questions, please make sure to come up to the mic and ask away. Now, we continue today on our questions about security and safety. Brian DeCouto is here to tell you more about GASOS, which is the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System. Now, without much further ado, please welcome Brian DeCouto. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all. Looks like we have a pretty full house, actually, which I'm surprised. Maybe they canceled the cocktail reception or something, because. But I'm glad you're here to be with me to talk a little bit about and listen to what I have to say about the Global Aviation Safety Oversight System, or GASOS. It's an initiative that ICAO has been working on, and I've had the pleasure to be a part of since 2017, since we launched the program back in the middle of 2017, so about just over 2 years now. So what I'm going to do today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what exactly GASOS is and the scope of GASOS that was recently approved during the ICAO Council session 217 back in June. So exactly what scope that the Council approved, and talk a little bit about why we need GASOS and what the benefits we expect to achieve with GASOS. So first, talk a little bit about the need for change, or the drivers for change. Why did ICAO invest so much resources and time into developing GASOS? Well, it's because ICAO recognizes that there are a lot of challenges today that states are facing. Some of those challenges include the growth of air traffic, which is expected to double in the next 15 years. There's lots of emerging technologies coming our way as well. States are having trouble with their effective implementation, getting those effective implementation scores up. And if you're not familiar with what I mean by effective implementation, that's a measurement of the USOP audit scores of a state, and it's a good indicator of the safety oversight capabilities of a state. So right now we're looking at about 68% global average for states around the world, and it's only in the last 10 years, it's only increased by about 1% per year. So that's an important point I want to make, because tomorrow during the Assembly agenda item 28, they're going to be talking about the Global Aviation Safety Plan, and states are going to be asked to endorse the Global Aviation Safety Plan. And in that plan, there are a number of goals that states will be asked to try to achieve. And one of those goals is related to improving safety oversight capabilities. So, and the targets, there's a number of targets as well that's associated with those goals. And the target for the safety oversight capabilities is that states, by the year 2030, should have 95%, all states should be at 95% global effective implementation. So right now we're sitting at 68%. And I told you it's increasing at about 1% a year. So if you do the math, in 10 years, by 2030, if we keep going the way that we're going, we're only going to be at 78% effective implementation. So there's going to be a lot of states that haven't reached that 95% goal that they're going to be endorsing in the GASP. So how are we going to help states to achieve that? What tools are we going to give them? And so that's where GASOS comes in, and we're hoping it can be one of those tools. So I don't know if you had the chance over the weekend, but they had an innovation fair here at ICAO just before the assembly. And if you went there, you would have seen lots of new, really interesting new technologies that are coming our way. Things like air taxis, drone deliveries, artificial intelligence. So lots of new, really great technologies that are going to be a big boost to the industry. But states are going to have to regulate these new technologies. They represent some global challenges that they're going to have to overcome. So we need to find ways to help them. So how can a state cope with all these challenges that are coming their way? Well, one way is to pool their resources into regional cooperation, regional solutions, things like a regional safety oversight organization, or RSOO, or a COSCAP project, or a regional accident investigation organization, RIOs. So states have, in the past, they've come together and they've formed these regional organizations to help them improve their safety oversight capabilities in their states. So the role of these organizations is to support their member states. So you can see on the map today how many regional organizations there are, or how many states are part of a regional organization. So it's about 80% of ICAO member states. So how come we're only at 68% effective implementation if that's the case? That's because many of these regional organizations have their own challenges. So some of the challenges that they have, the first one here is the lack of legal framework. So these organizations are, they're usually formed through a treaty or some kind of MOU or some kind of legal document to empower these organizations. So what we're finding is that some of them, even in their treaties, even in their founding documents, there's a lack of clarity on what exactly they're empowered to do for their member states. So a lot of confusion in exactly what they can do. So they need to be properly empowered in order to help their states. And then sustainability. They have to have the resources. They have to have the manpower. They have to have the sustainable funding as well to be able to help their states. So we find that a lot of RSOs, so they're mostly funded by membership fees. So one of the challenges they're having is actually getting from some of their member states their membership fees and sustaining that funding for them. So they have to look at other options like industry fees and grants and loans and things like that. And another challenge we see in some regions is a lack of harmonized regulation. So there's a lot of inefficiency in the region, so it makes it very difficult for the RSOO to help its member states if it has to apply different regulations in different regions. So we've also seen in regions with harmonized regulations that's really helped the region to be more efficient, helped the RSO to be more efficient and effective, and boosted EI scores in the region. So how can we help these regional organizations to strengthen, to bring up their capability and make them more effective and efficient? Well, that's why ICAO, during its 217th session, approved the implementation of GASOS as a tool to help those regional organizations and improve their capabilities. So what exactly did the Council approve? So it approved GASOS for levels 1 and 2. So we'll talk about the levels a little bit later, and with a focus on strengthening those regional organizations. So what exactly is GASOS? Well, it's a very simple idea, simple premise. It's basically just an assessment mechanism for these regional organizations. So what we're calling here on this slide the SOO and the AIO. So what they'll do is they'll submit an application to ICAO to be assessed and recognized under the GASOS program. And then once that application has been accepted by ICAO, then an on-site assessment will be conducted. And that organization, if it passes that assessment, can then go into the GASOS directory where states can access to find solutions, to find organizations for the safety functions that they need help with. And then they can engage with those regional organizations and get the help that they need to support the industry. Now, ICAO's responsibility doesn't stop just at the initial assessment. There's also going to be some monitoring activities that ICAO takes as well. So we have to continuously monitor these organizations. And one of those main tools that we're going to use is called the annual questionnaire that the regional organization will be expected to submit to ICAO on an annual basis. And then in that questionnaire, there will be a number of indicators or a number of questions, things like their work program, related to their work program, or budget, finance, turnover of their manpower, things like that. In addition, states will also have the opportunity to provide feedback on their regional organizations. So we'll send them a short survey for them to complete, and then all that information will then go into a risk profile for those regional organizations, and ICAO will continuously monitor them, and then do a reassessment at least every 3 years of those organizations, but it may be sooner if the information of the risk profile indicates it should be sooner as well. So what is GASOS trying to achieve exactly? So there's two main objectives with GASOS. The first one is to boost those regional organizations, so to assess them and help strengthen them and bring their capabilities up. The other objective is related to facilitating the provision of safety functions to those organizations, so helping states understand their responsibilities when engaging with these organizations, and encouraging them and promoting them to go ahead and use these organizations that have been assessed by ICAO and deemed that their capabilities are at a high level. So they're going to be more likely to use the services of a regional organization. So some key concepts on GASOS. So firstly, GASOS is voluntary. It's a voluntary program. So that means those regional organizations, they don't need to engage in it. It's not mandatory. But we've been engaging with those regional organizations, those RSOs and those RIOs. So we know they're interested in participating in GASOS. In fact, we had a market survey, and about 90% of them said that they are interested in participating with GASOS, but they're not obligated to do it. The second key concept, which is probably the most important one to remember, is that states maintain their responsibilities always under the convention, under the Chicago Convention. So even if they're engaging with these regional organizations and using the services of these regional organizations, they still have to remember that they maintain their responsibilities. And then the third point is that I want to share with you is that the GASOS assessment has been developed using the USOAP CMA methodology. So it means we haven't been reinventing the wheel. We're using something that exists already, and it's been a very successful program. So it means we've been able to implement GASOS quite rapidly. So for the last 2 years, in 2 years, basically, which is probably a record for ICAO to develop anything in 2 years. But we've been able to do that because we've been able to build on the experience of the USOAP program. And then lastly, the GASOS recognition is granted in respect to specific safety functions. So we've developed a list of 129 safety functions in all the technical areas that's consistent with USOAP as well. And the organization applying for GASOS recognition can pick and choose which safety functions it has the capability to do and would like to be recognized for. And then the states can see, well, if they need help with one specific safety function, they know where to go. And now just to talk a little bit about those levels that I mentioned earlier. So level 1 is simply just advisory function. So the regional organization will just provide advice on any of the 129 safety functions that I mentioned. And that may be advice related to developing regulations, or it could be helping them to notify differences to SARPs, or coordinating a pool of inspectors as well, which they do in some regions. And then when we get to level 2 is what we call operational assistance. So the regional organization will actually conduct inspections and audits and different tasks related to surveillance and certification for the state. And the state will then, so the regional organization will then make a report, and the state will then issue the certificate. And then when we talk about regulations, the regional organization would also maintain and develop and maintain a set of harmonized regional regulations in the region. I also want to point out about level 2, very important that to tell you that that regional organizations that engage in GASOS or are the states are using those regional organizations, they're doing it under the state's authority. So that means, again, back to the point I made earlier about states maintaining their responsibilities under the convention. So, so there's no difference whether the state would use their own inspector or using the inspector of the regional organization. They would both be authorized in the same way. Now just a little bit about the assessment stages or the process that a regional organization would take to get this GASOS recognition and assessment. So stage 1 is the application and pre-assessment stage. So the regional organization would submit their application. ICAO would do a pre-assessment to determine eligibility of the organization. And then if they are eligible, then we would send them a self-assessment to complete, which would help the ICAO assessment team to prepare for the on-site audit. And then that's stage 3, is actually completing the on-site audit. So the team members, the number of team members will depend, of course, on the scope of the assessment and the number of areas that the organization has applied for. And that on-site assessment will be evidence-based, just like the USOP methodology. So the organizations will have to show evidence that they satisfy the different assessment questions. And if they pass that recognition, or if there are any findings during that on-site assessment, they would have to correct those findings in a corrective action plan. And then once they've demonstrated that they've corrected those findings, then they can go to stage 4, which is the recognition stage. So a little bit about the benefits. What do we expect to achieve with GASOS? So basically what we expect to achieve is very related to those objectives I told you earlier, is that the regional organizations are going to improve their capabilities. They're going to improve their credibility as well and visibility. And then states are going to be more likely to use those regional organizations because we're also going to give them guidance on how to do it as well. And if they need help, they should be going to these regional organizations. And then through that, the states are going to boost their safety oversight capabilities, and we're going to see those effective implementation scores increase as well, so we can reach that 95% goal that's in the new edition of the GASP. So look at the schedule and the milestone. So we've come a long way. So really the only main milestone left is the endorsement of the 40th Assembly. So we're going to have we'll have the conversation tomorrow. The working papers on GASOS will be presented tomorrow during agenda item 29. We look forward to those discussions. And then once we have the go-ahead from the Assembly, then we can launch GASOS, and the plans to launch it in January 2020. And of course, along the way, we've developed all the different mechanisms for the program, like the assessment mechanisms, and then the guidance that we have a GASOS manual that we've developed as well that will also be ready to be launched in January 2020 to give states and those regional organizations guidance on how to engage under GASOS. And then we've also done a number of pilot assessments as well. So it's very important, of course, to test the assessment mechanisms that we've developed. So we've done 4 altogether, 4 pilot assessments. So you can see me there in the picture. I was at Bagasso back in May in Nigeria. So that's an RSO of the Benjo Accord Group in West Africa. We've also done AXA in the Central America. So it's the RSO for Central America. And then PASO is the RSO for the Pacific Island states. That was the last one we did. And then we did Transport Canada as well, a state CAA. So overall, the outcomes of those pilot assessments were very, very successful. We were very pleased with the results. Of course, it let us test the assessment mechanisms, so we have a really good product now. But it also was very positive for us to see, just with the pilot assessments, the outcomes that some of the regional organizations were already starting to achieve. So the strengthening, they were already developing their corrective action plans and implementing their corrective action plans. In some cases, they've already done that. We've also seen stronger political support from the RSO Board of Directors, which is made up of their member state director generals usually. So that's a very positive sign for this new initiative, and we hope that trend continues. Okay, and of course it's been a collaborative approach. We've taken a collaborative approach, a collaborative effort to develop GASOS. So we have a study group called the GASOS Study Group, which I'm actually the ICAO secretary for that group. And it's made up of members from states, RSOs, international organizations, and even industry, and the Air Navigation Commission as observers. So they've been very instrumental in helping us to develop the different mechanisms for GASOS, and that includes the GASOS manual and the assessment mechanisms as well, and even identifying risks. They developed a risk register and helped us with the associated mitigation actions as well. So we've really enjoyed working with them. We've had 5 meetings so far, that way 5, and we look forward to continue working with them in the future as well. Even when the GASOS program is launched, we'll still be seeking their advice to further develop or further boost the program. Okay, so coming in 2020, we hope to launch GASOS, and hopefully together with a collaborative approach by boosting those regional organizations, strengthening them, and encouraging states to utilize those services of those regional organizations, we can help improve safety oversight capabilities around the world. So thank you everyone for listening, and if you have any if you want any more information, we have a website it's an ICAO website /GASOS, or you can also write us at the email address on the screen as well. So thank you very much, and I guess I'll take any questions anyone might have. No takers? Nobody has any questions? I'm sure somebody must. They just need the courage.
Okay. Thank you, Brian DeCouto.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.